our guest, David Cervantes.
David Cervantes. Yep.
Thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I want to start this podcast first, just a small introduction of you. Very impressed with your craftsmanship. One of the last craftsmen of our era. Let's go. There's not a lot, the tradesmen, the craftsmen, the people who do work with their hands. We're neighbors, right? We met,
neighbors.
and we were talking a little bit before the podcast started, and I can't remember exactly what was like how we ran into. I don't know if we were shoveling snow or what the deal was, because I know we had some early run-ins. Do you remember how it happened?
So, if I remember correctly, it was one of those days where we had snowed in. It got snowed in, and like obviously no one's cleaning the alley.
Yeah.
So I was back there shoveling from like my garage to like to where it opens up to the street, and it was like a superhero reveal. Like the doors, and you just sat there like armed with like a shovel, and you're like, "We're doing this." And I was like, "I'm going this way, you're going that way," and you're like, "Bet." And then we just started shoveling, and then
First
after,
off, I never say bet, so I didn't say that.
you're probably like,
I'm too old for that. But dude, that's right. It was
Yeah.
shoveling snow. And if I remember correctly, I may or may not have had a cigar in my mouth while doing it.
I don't remember, but that would have been much more cooler. I think I'm going to tell the story from now on. Like that's how we did.
I
like
remember
Wolverine style. You had
the first time I shoveled that alley, I thought, because I think the second time we ran into each other, but the first time I had done it, I thought people would be out there shoveling. I was like, well, it's time to meet the neighbors. And I didn't meet anybody that time. And I think you had told me that you were out of town. Like the first snow that had happened, you weren't there. Because the second time I was like, oh, you weren't out here last time? What the heck, dude? I did this whole thing. He's like, that was you? I was like, yeah. It's like, well, I was out of town. But yeah, we kind of made a friendship. And then I found out that a craftsman, a designer, 3D printing, laser cutting, woodworking, and you showed me your shop. You're like, come check out the playground. Yeah. Saw the shop. Probably fast forward maybe 6 months after we met. You've been with Headspace Studios from the very start. Our first location, we had you build the cyclorama wall.
Yeah.
And I remember asking you if you could do it. And you're like, I think we can. Walk me through how you guys figured out to pull that off, because we had never built one. Mm-hmm. I knew when we started the studio that was the first thing we needed. I looked around St. Louis. There wasn't anybody with a public cyclorama at the time when we started. There's a couple now that have popped up, but I'm almost positive we were the first public one that was advertised, right? How did you guys come about designing that? Because I gave you no direction. I literally shot you a YouTube video of like, here's a picture of what we want.
Here's a YouTube tutorial on how to make one.
Yeah, and I was like, and I even told you on that. I was like, but not like that. I don't like that. I think they were doing it very cheaply. I said I want a very solid cyclorama, very professionally made. We're gonna spend some money. How'd you guys go about doing that?
So I always love projects that take me outside of my comfort zone. Never even heard of a cyclorama, right? I've seen the ones that just go up one way, but yours was compounded where it actually kind of like was a rounded corner on the inside. Mm-hmm.
Which is incredibly hard to paint, by the way.
Oh yeah. The roller only goes this way, and then you have to...
a lot of
this. Yeah, I could only imagine. And so I was just intrigued by it. I was like, well, we got to get a stab. Like, how hard can it be? Mistake number one is never, underestimating the challenge. But luckily, like my dad, you got to meet my dad, and you got to meet my tío Fai, and his compadre. And
good dudes, by the way.
Great dudes, man. Like salt of the earth. Like you can't get more like salt of the earth type of people.
When I shook his hand, I was like, that's the guy's hand who's been working his whole life. Look, my dad's hand.
I know. It's like calluses on calluses on calluses, right?
It's PlayStation like hands compared to
I know, right? Yeah. Oh. But, I ran by my dad, and my dad's like, expertise. He was like, because he's been framing and drywalling since before I was born, and I'm pushing 40 now, so just retired. He just retired, so he's like, this is how you do it, this is how you do it, this is how you do it. And he's like, but we're gonna need those ribs to be cut, otherwise we're not gonna have a consistent cove. Like, how are we gonna do that? And I was like, I know how to do that. Like, I whipped it up in CAD and CNC'd it out on my machine at the shop, and my dad's like, yeah, All right, we got it.
That's
the game plan. Drew up a real rough like layout, and they did their black magic of like figuring out how much drywall sheets they're gonna need and how much compound this, that, or the other, and we had the issue of like the floor not being plumb.
That was another one too. So
Yeah.
we built this thing in
Plumb and flat.
the historic Limp
Yeah.
facility, and we got very lucky with the location there. We're on a corner of that building, and the management there was okay with us doing some stuff there. But again, they're a little nervous about, okay, you're doing what and how's that going to be? You're a new renter.
Mm-hmm.
So as we brought it in, the floors, and they moved. They're old, I guess I want to say like plank floors that have give and move and rotation. And it wasn't level. So we had to, those ribs had to, there was some that was like that far off the ground. I was like, okay, so how are we going to sync up? And we brought somebody else in to do the floors. And I don't know if I had sent you those pictures when we failed, because our first attempt, we failed.
Oh no, I didn't see it.
So they had brought in almost like a floor filler, like you would do a garage.
Okay.
And it was kind of like mix it yourself and drop it, and exactly happened. Like the floors moved, they cracked, and the whole thing spider webbed. So you have this beautiful like drywall cyclorama, and drywall is not typically what people use, by the way. It gives us a very clean, very smooth finish. It's a premium look, right? A lot of them are using different materials, but anyway. Spiderweb, the whole thing's ruined. I was like, okay, what do we do? So luckily that contractor was gracious and was like, hey, if you pay me to clean it up, I won't pay you for the work, or I won't charge you for XYZ. And I think he ended up breaking even on that job.
Okay.
So that ended up good. We went shopping for someone else who, and again, we paid a lot more for the second time around, but we ended up having to put down, I think he put down plywood first. And then built up on top of it. That wall's been there almost 2.5 years now. The floor and the wall. And it's been great. It's been beautiful.
I see pictures all the time that it always looks amazing. But yeah, they were able to facilitate that resolution because they worked in Chicago where it's the exact same thing. They're working in buildings that are like 150 years old, right?
They came down.
Yeah,
they came down from Chicago, right?
Yeah, they came down from Chicago. They're like, this kid doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, both these kids don't know what
they're doing. Like, let's help them out. And that's, they shared their expertise. And the whole time they were there, they were just like dumping wisdom.
Yeah.
Like, this is why you're doing it this way. This is why you're framing it this way. And I'm just like,
That's awesome.
like, I just want to learn. And my Deal 5 was one who was wetting the drywall sheets to kind of have it bend and pliable so we could get that consistent.
That's the other thing I wanted to ask. Like, I've seen the videos that we were watching. We were seeing them kind of like cut.
Yeah, they were doing they
were cutting them and then like bending them after that. And I was unsure about that, right? Yep. And then I was even telling you, I don't want it to be like rigid.
Yeah, like that PlayStation look, right?
Yeah, I didn't want that. I really wanted smooth. So I didn't know that's how they did it. They wet it.
They wet it a little bit. There's a special one where you wet it damp enough and then you zip it in.
And then let it dry.
And it does the thing. Yeah, it's almost like a plaster where like, once it's wet and dries, it stays in that form, and it doesn't like want to go back to what it was before. So as you paint it and you mud it, you're not going to get the cracking, and it's like stuff that it's tribal knowledge that had I done it.
I was gonna say we just gave away the secret sauce. Like, everyone who's trying to do a cyclorama,
betting.
Right now it's like, whoa, cut that out, cut that out. It's too good.
No, they made it work, and like all the shoots that you guys have done.
Yeah.
Like when you guys did the opening and you guys had like the whiskey tastings and everything.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that was so much fun. And then the pictures just look so dope.
Yeah.
You know.
Shooting on that thing has been great. We were there, I think, for about a year, year and a half before we moved here. And then when we opened up the podcasting here, we tapped you on the shoulder again. And we're like, hey, so we're going to do podcasting here, and we're going to spend some money on a really nice custom table, come back with ideas, right? Like what would this look like? And you came back with this, I think you said chopped surfboard, right? Because it has that like kind of California surfboard look with the ends chopped off. It's a three-piece table. So tell us about that design, the workflow there, and if we would have been more intuitive, we would have shot with the table. We have a podcast room. We're in the studio right now.
We'll do closing shots of like us hanging out at the table.
We'll have to do that.
So as a designer, the solution kind of reveals itself within the problem. So designing is the transition layer of the solution. And so a lot of times, the solution is where it meets the sculpture, or the sculpture is a solution. So if you follow the school of form follows function, oftentimes the solution is kind of presented itself. So when you break down the problem or the opportunity that we're trying to resolve is, okay, it's not really a conference table. It's a table in which we're all conversing around. So it can't be rectilinear, right? Because if we're going to put a camera, we all want to have optics on each other, and even like at a family dinner, we all kind of want to see who's talking, right? Yeah. It's a very human thing. And so as I'm designing that, I'm also thinking in not just designing a product, but designing a system. It's not just designing an object and like, okay, you're done. It's how can we exemplify it and stretch out the value of that? So that's where the 3-tier came in. Because if we're able to remove a leaf, then now you've got 2 tables. And now you can do podcast A and podcast B. They both have the hardware and the infrastructure for the mic stands and the power and the outlets. And so you're adding dexterity of value into that system. And so with all that being tied in, like the aesthetics, honestly, is almost the easiest part, because, you kind of match this beautiful building that we've got here. St. Louis is peppered with historical, beauty architecturally. So that was the easy portion of it. But even the design of that is, we've got this like 2-inch thick oak tabletop.
Yeah. It's a monster table, by the way.
Yeah, we all threw our backs out lifting these up from my Scion XB.
Dude.
Up, to the elevator. But even like in the legs, like I made sure that when we got the steel and I was welding that up, that we've got the super thick steel so that when it is broken out, this table,
it ain't going
nowhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah, it's not going to tip. And so
giant caster wheels, and again, that like textile look that we wanted on the lower half of that, meeting this nice crafted, and the room still smells amazing.
Yeah, I know.
You walked in, you're like, is that the table? It's like, yeah, that's the table, dude.
Yeah. This video is brought to you by Rubio Monaco.
So good.
It smelled so good. Yeah. It was a delight.
And we're not even, the original design to that is a 6-top with the inlaid mics that we haven't even put those in yet, right? Yep. So all that stuff is kind of there. And I've just been super impressed with you overall, not only as a human being. You've been a great hang. The whiskey and cigar nights are always awesome.
Whiskeys and cigars are always good.
Yeah. But just as the way that you broke down that table and you broke down the way that you look at art, you've carried that over into other things like 3D printing, other projects that we've talked about.
Yep.
Just I love how you look at design. How are you using design it's tough too, because we talked about this off camera. With innovation comes less work with your hands, 3D printing, lasers, all the above. How do you take your craftsman approach to all the things that you do with all the technology that's kind of like bleeding in? How do you mold those or fuse those 2 worlds together?
Yeah. So a lot of times when new technology comes out like that, like the 3D printing, the laser cutting, the CNC machinery, and all that fun stuff, there's always a knee-jerk reaction of fear of like this brand new thing. It's going to take our jobs. It's going to take away the artistry of it. Even with AI now, people are like freaking out of like, so the way to really kind of approach it is, how am I going to implement this tool to do what we couldn't do before and not have it be what's going to replace us? How can I hot rod this technology and bend it to like our whim and will to do stuff that maybe it wasn't designed to do?
Now, when you say, sorry to cut you off on your thought, when you say hot rod, you mean like tweak
tweak, or even just like make it do things it's not supposed to do, right? So kind of like when the old moonshiners would hot rod their cars so they could outpace the cops. For example, when I do the 3D printing stuff, I try to push it into a space where a lot of the 3D printers just print like this. And where I'm playing with it doing this.
Oh, interesting.
And they're like, how do you do that? And it's like, it's just a computer. You just need to tell it what you want it to do.
Now, first off, I like the notion of it moving outside the lines that it's kind of the parameters that it's been set in, right? And we use AI in a lot of the things that we do in the marketing that I work with, and it's always not the normal, right? I'm not just being like, hey, make me a marketing plan. It's a little more nuanced. So as you're doing that, and I don't want you to give away, because I know you still do freelance, you still do some stuff, and you're very innovative in the way that you're moving. So I don't want you to give away too much. But what's the purpose of having it instead of just going straight? Are there reasons why you're pushing that, or is it purely for to know that you can in case you need to use that at some point?
Both. Like, one is to like kind of give yourself an edge, right? Like the inventor who invented a chisel versus a very sharp rock, like literally gave him an edge on his competition.
Yeah.
Literally, right? So it's the same thing.
Nice little dad joke.
Isn't that right?
You got a kid now?
Pun intended. I got to stick in the dad jokes when I can. And so with like the 3D printing, when you're able to make the printer do stuff that it wasn't meant to do, then it gives you a whole wider range of geometry that you didn't have access to. You can make it do textures that it wasn't allowed to do. You're moving things, even the hardware, in ways that it wasn't designed to do. And so with all that being said, like the capabilities just open up a little bit more. And then I tweak it, and another person's like, oh, I like what that guy did. Maybe I'll do this instead. And then she sees that. And before you know it, like we're all collaborating kind of remotely and just advancing the whole animal in a whole different way.
Now, when it comes to 3D printing specifically, I'm assuming there's a lot of open source sharing in that space.
There is.
And are you on forums doing that, or what type of community is there?
So the 3D printing community is very open source. Yeah, they like to share everything. It's all very homebrew and kind of like anti-capitalist for the most part. Kind of like the old computer hackers from back in the day.
I know you're selling your stuff. Keep it down over there.
I know, right? I'm anti-capitalist until I have to be. And so, so like Reddit, there's GitHubs, there's all kind of Discord servers in which we like share each other's tips and tricks and like, you know, how to make it work. Just kind of like how there's hot rod forums and plumber forums. Like they're all just out there trying to share knowledge and pushing the envelope of what is capable.
Now, all of these things tie together really well. So you have a shop full of woodworking equipment, woodworking.
And then old school chisels and mallets.
Yep, and you got the 3D printing now, and I think you have laser etching and laser cutting as well.
Laser etching, laser cutting. So yeah, it's a fun play. Like I said, it's a fun playground. Digital manufacturing is part of it, but I think it all still starts with the pencil. I think when I was here with you, I was actually
on pencil
and paper before it all moved to CAD, and then CAD to robots, and then from robots back to me planing the wood, sanding the wood, cutting the wood.
Well, that was a really fun process for us too, because I think as we were picking our wood, that was a lot of, oh yeah, I want you to pick some wood that's going to be in your table. It's like, okay, great. You gave us probably about 10 or 15 different types of stain and wood.
Yeah.
And I literally had them all laid out in the studio. I was like, all right, Nate, what do we want? He's like, I don't know, dude. This one looks cool and this one looks cool. And there's something special about getting a piece of art, because that table is a piece of art.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
That table is a piece of art. Getting a piece of art custom made for not only your function and your purpose, but to tell a story of, you know, this studio it is an eclectic mix of creatives from St. Louis and artisans of St. Louis coming together to make something really pretty. And that table, man, that table does it. And people walk in, every single person who's walked in and seen it has been like, dude,
I appreciate
holy table. And we're like, yes, you need to meet my guy. My guy, Cervantes.
that. Yeah, I appreciate that a lot.
Great.
Yeah, it's crazy how like all that kind of culminates, right? The serendipitous connections that happen, you know, from us shoveling to like years later, here we are, like talking about a commune of artists and artists and creatives.
It's wild to think we're coming up on, I think this is our 4th year in business. It's crazy. I was looking at something from, I don't know if it was our first, our cold launch or our soft launch. By the way, that's still on our Instagram page. It's hilarious. I just changed it yesterday. It's like soft launch 2023. It's like, oh my God, that's wild. I think that was, again, just those humble beginnings. We started building that stuff out in 2022, had a soft opening January, I think, of 23, and just to get all that to happen to get us here, right? And we're sitting in a really cool spot. We have upstairs now, and you've been with us through it all. We're talking about lighting, actually, and doing some custom lighting for the podcast room now, and some sound and some soundproofing.
Oh yeah, and you know a guy.
And I know a guy.
Yeah.
With all the things that you're doing, work-life balance, family, tell me how, as an artist, how are you surviving now as a new dad? How are you surviving the artist life? I got to pay my bills, I got to create art, and now I have this little person. How does that balance happen? What's been the struggle? What's been fun? What's been hard?
I'm a believer in pressure making diamonds. You know, I thought I had it rough when it was just me, and then I thought it was rough when it was me and my wife, and now it's like me, my wife, and baby, right? So the pressure to be lit and to be on is very real. But I think also just the drive of just like making him proud, of like, you know, making him happy. And right now he's oblivious, right? He's just, you give him a Hot Wheel car and he's like, so the balance is, it's real, because those moments are very fleeting. Like today, he's the youngest and oldest he'll ever be. Like,
I like that.
It's heartbreaking, but it's also like, you're also proud, you know? Like I was staring at him the night before his birthday, and I was like, this is your last night that you're going to be 2 years old. Tomorrow you're going to be 3.
That's cool.
And so that puts design and art in a whole different light as well. Those moments are fleeting. So how much time of my heart and soul can I pour into this and be very, very proud of it? And so the movement, the decisions are much more intentional, because now your most important resource, time, is so narrow. And so you really have to focus in on like, how do I make this the dopest, whatever it's going to be? Whether it's a system that I'm designing, not just a product, a thing, but how does this bring value into something much more broader? And how is that going to make an improvement on everyone's life that it touches? And so the value of it just actually just sitting and just being one with the concept of the idea, being much more intentional, is where the balance is. Because you come home from work, you get baby upstairs, we go potty, we play a little bit. Either it's mom cooking or dad making ramen, you know, and then we eat, we brush teeth, read a book, pajamas, nap time, and before you know it, it's like 9 o'clock, 9:30. Mom and dad put on Parks and Rec. We fall asleep. We watch it for 10 minutes before we're both like, and then we wake up at 6:30 in the morning and do it all over again.
Now, that's got to be, again, you have to have a sliver of discipline to do that, especially as a creative, because we are we're in nature, we're chaos.
Yeah.
and that regimented boom, boom, got to do this. It's got to be tough sometimes as an artist.
Well, it is. I mean, like I'm squirrel brain, right? I'm ADHD, like incarnate, you know? And so if those systems in place aren't put there, or if I don't follow it, then it's going to be mayhem.
Yeah.
You know, he's brushing his teeth before he has ramen. That doesn't make any
That-
sense. You know, he's got his pajama pants on his head. That's not going to work. And so when it comes to designing and working and creating, it's a very similar approach. I have to like get into that mindset of like, shop has to be clean before I get anything started.
That's
Right.
That's interesting too. So, in the marketing world, I was just talking to a client about this, that I am inherently chaotic, and I want to do.
Same way.
And the people that I've partnered with typically are A type people and the opposite, and they have structured. They've built these structures for me to live inside of. Like you can be as crazy as you want, as long as it follows these steps. And they've allowed me, they've allowed me, because some of it's chaotic, and I can see it on their faces sometimes when I bring up a new idea or whatever. They're just like, we're going again, huh? Yes, we're going again.
Yes, we're doing it.
Yeah, we're going to go again. But I promise I'll follow the structure. We'll do follow the structure, and we'll do this. But he's a business owner. He's a creative like me. And I was kind of just telling him my process of like, hey, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but if we don't follow these processes, we're going to be off here in left field, right?
Yep.
And as a creative, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, and even sounds like as a father, it sounds like those structures are a must.
Yeah, they're kind of non-negotiables, especially as a dad. Like, you know, it's one thing to fail myself. It's another thing to fail my kid. And those are galaxies apart, you know? And you're going to fail. I mean, I'm going to burn myself. I'm going to make mistakes. I mean, I know I'm going to make mistakes. I'm sure I've made some already that I'm just oblivious to or refuse to accept it.
That's probably more likely.
I think that's part of the But yeah, there's even like in the design process, you have your value proposition. What are the tangibles? What are we resolving? And you start seeing it as like a matrix, you know, like a yes, no flow chart. Even like as an entrepreneur, okay, we're going to calculate this concept. How many products are we going to come out with this? Is it going to be 1 or is it going to be 3? Well, if we do 3 products, we could probably validate the tooling for majority of these components. So when we forecast the ROI, the return on investment of the capital expenditure of this product, we could make our money back much more quicker. The bean counters upstairs are going to be much more happier about that. Or they're going to approve our concept much quicker if we give them like the padded validation of like, hey, it's expensive. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be $500,000 to develop this product, but we're going to make it up in a year and a half.
Yeah.
Before we start.
Now that sounds like, because again, you have a corporate design life as well. Yep. That's the corporate brain and the corporate design life coming into effect. Because as an artist, you know, I hope I'm not speaking for designers, because that I'm not, right? An artist, yes, but a designer, no. As you're taking your artist brain, if you don't have that business sense, it's very hard to survive in the corporate world for very long, because artists are not built for a corporate world.
I agree. And that's about all that I think most designers kind of like inherently, when you go into design school, for most of us that end up in industrial design or design school, you go in as an artist. Like you go in because you have a talent for drawing or seeing something in a different perspective or sculpting or painting or whatever. It's like, how do I translate these skills, this imaginative perspective into a tangible thing that we could have? Anyone or most people can do that. And that's a beautiful process in itself. But if you want to bring that to market and have a job that excels in that, then you have to dissect it in a much more corporate manner, you know, facilitate the bean counters, facilitate, you know, placate the stakeholders and make the presidents happy and, you know, make marketing's job, you know, cush and make sure that the sales reps are happy with all that. With art, really, in my opinion, it's an expression. And that's kind of where the beginning of the end starts. Like I've expressed what I could. Here's my expression, whether it be music, whether it be sculpture, whether it be paint. The other life that object lives in or that experience lives in is now, how does that impact other people? I wrote this musical piece. I perform it. I wrote it because I'm going through some pain, you know, and then that song resonates with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And then they write a book about that song. And it just starts, right? Same thing with like design in that sense is like, okay, I'll design this beautiful light fixture. How does that going to impact a space? Is it going to make it softer? Is it going to make someone who's having a really hard moment in a hospital room? We just lost their father. How is that glowing light going to give them like a little bit of hope?
Yeah,
You know?
it's interesting to think about it that deeply. And as someone who doesn't think like that about, I think like that about music, but not necessarily about lighting.
Right?
And we need designers to, I'm appreciative of the fact that there are designers that think about it like that. We just had an artist come in and do a piece of art for us, canvas art, and he thinks about canvas art like that. Well, what is it going to do? And actually, it's the process. And, you know, sometimes the art becomes a little bit different because, you know, I knocked over the drawing while I was working.
Yeah.
I leave that in because it's the imperfections. And
It's,
how is that going to affect someone the way they look at it? And it's just really cool. It's nice to have, it's nice to know that in every industry, there's someone like you at the other end of the table to raise your hand in a corporate setting and say, hey, if we do it like that, I don't know if it's going to affect people the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll save money for sure, you know, but is the piece going to speak to the next person who uses that piece in the same way?
Yeah. And it's a tough battle that every industrial designer has had to face and is facing today and will face tomorrow, is how do we bridge that negotiation between what makes money and the art, the soul of what that design purpose is. And so specifically in decorative lighting, it's often finding how to negotiate that, whether we cut costs somewhere else or we choose a more economic, maybe it's not glass, maybe it's an acrylic shade instead of a glass shade. So maybe we could do some negotiation, change materials there. Maybe something that isn't cast in aluminum, maybe we could extrude it, you know, save some money there. And so that way the soul of the design as it's moving through its different stages of development is still retained. And ultimately, like when it comes out, it's maybe 80% of the way there, but it's still there and it's still your baby.
Yeah.
You know, and you see it out in the wild and you're just happy and proud of it.
Well, this is interesting too because marketability matters, right? Because so there's this book called Big Magic. I don't know if I've talked about it on these podcasts before. I'm sure I have because it's one of those things that sticks with me. And the author, I always forget her name, but she talks about ideas as being things outside of us that reveal themselves to us, and I really like that. And the idea wants two things, and I think the book narrows it into two things. It wants its story to be told, or it wants to be seen, and it wants as many people as possible to see it. And the line that gets, or the balance that happens, is if I change the idea a little bit, more people will see it. It becomes more marketable, and the idea is okay with that. It's like, okay, I'll change a little bit. More people will see me. Okay, great. But there comes a point where it stops being the thing and it will dissipate. And we'll say, well, okay, this isn't going to be successful at all. And I'll find projects just fall apart. It's like, oh, this project is working and working. And then it changes so much. It's not the same thing. And
it's
the energy dissipates from the project.
Yeah, it's kind of like an Icarus thing, right? Where it just flies too close to the sun and it just snowballs. Yeah.
Melts because the idea of what it was is so far from the soul of that idea that the idea stops helping.
Yeah.
It says, okay, you're not even talking about me anymore. It's something completely different. And it leaves, and then the whole thing just kind of crumbles.
It does.
I like thinking about art like that. I like thinking about the creative process like that, because it becomes a lot less stressful as an artist too, because the onus is no longer solely on you to create the perfect thing. it becomes a discovery process where I have to let the thing reveal itself to me.
Yeah.
And I feel like art does a very good job of doing that if you'll allow it to let that happen.
Let it breathe.
Naturally. Yep.
Yeah, let it breathe and let it do its thing. Yeah, it's even wilder, and I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. It's even wilder, like even now when I left, one of the projects that we were working on was such an easy project to work on because I felt like the soul was just like, I got this, guys. Just kind of just ping pong me a little bit, put the safety guards up, and the bowling ball will kind of like do its own thing. Like we presented the concept, and the engineering team, she's a great engineer. Her name's Diana. The solutions just revealed themselves to her, and she already had like this inherent knowledge of a previous system, and she incorporated it, and it just was such an easy like give. And the engineering team is extremely talented as well, and the leadership was talented in itself. That we're just like, this is almost too easy. Like we're waiting for the other shoe to drop. We're waiting for like the comet to fall out of the sky and like or some curveball to happen. But I'm a believer in that. I believe that when we try to shoehorn something and try to make it work and do its thing and it doesn't want to, it just simply won't.
Yeah.
So either we walk away from it and we revisit it, or it's that thing that it wants to be, and maybe it'll just live on and as a concept. And there's been times where we go back in the hat and we pull out and like, oh, it's time for you now.
I love that. And again, it's so, yes, it speaks true. Around here we say maktum. It's always been written. It was written in the stars. It couldn't have been any other way. So when things go right, again, this relationship, when I met you, maktum, it's like, oh yeah, your neighbor's a designer and he built your cyclorama wall and your custom table, and it worked out perfectly. I'm like, yeah, it did.
Well, what I love about that moment is that we were both shoveling, and I was like, I'm going this way, you're going that way. We didn't really introduce ourselves until we were done. Like, oh, by the way, I'm your neighbor, and I'm like, yeah.
I assumed you came from the garage.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what's up? And I was late too.
It was by the time the sun was already like, it was that magical blue.
Yeah.
That when the snow turns blue and everything is blue and like shades of gray and black. Yeah, when we actually saw eye to eye, it was like already like nighttime. Yeah. Our backs were like,
not as young as we used to be.
No,
That's
no
great,
spring chickens.
So as we kind of wrap up here, I want to we always ask every guest, like, how do we find you? What's the best Instagram handle for you to find your work?
So Cervantes Designs on Instagram is probably my living portfolio.
Okay.
That's probably where you're going to find me the most active.
Cervantes Designs.
Cervantes
We'll
Designs.
tag it in the video. Make sure people find that.
Yep. That's probably where my direct opening, that's where it's going to be.
Now, I'm hesitant to say this because I know that you only take on a few projects every year and we like to use you, but you do take on custom work.
Yeah, taking a lot of custom work. Thankfully, over the years, built up a lot of great relationships with architects and interior designers. And so feel free to reach out. Like if it's something that's really, really interesting, intriguing, or has like a unique solution or a unique problem that needs a unique solution to a problem, hit me up. Yeah.
I know we had talked a little bit before the podcast started. We're like, oh, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this. And I'm hoping I hit them all.
Baktoon, right?
Supposed to be.
Supposed to be.
Brother, appreciate you.
No, appreciate you, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.